So, second team room talk. We're going to go ahead and start getting into it a little bit. Talk to Mike Pintacura a little bit
God,
about.
you butcher my name every freaking
Do I
time.
do it really?
Oh,
say
yeah.
Say it for me once.
Pintacura.
Pintacura.
JP even kind of pseudo-corrected you last time.
Did he really?
But you didn't catch it.
He caught me. I mean, sometimes I'm a little dense, but okay.
It is a difficult
We're gonna
name.
at least have us pop top.
Oh, yeah.
Pop top, and if you wouldn't mind getting me down there on the other side,
Oh,
the cap's
yeah.
down there on the side. Thank you, sir.
Yep.
And got my Uptown Auto Glass koozie cooler here.
I'll take my A-TACS.
Yeah, there we go. Keep them cool. Thanks, Mike, for coming up and
Thank you
sitting
for having
down
me.
with us. Like to get in first. I want to talk a little bit. What does the team room talk mean to you? When you hear that, when we started talking about, or when we came up with the idea, starting to want to do a podcast for A-TACS and talk about products and things like that, and we said, we want it to be, because of the guys that we work with, like you and JP and Rick Hogg and guys, mostly from the special operations community, came right in my head. Team room talk, man.
Right.
What does that mean to you?
Well, kind of reminds me of, I'm not going to go naming names of other podcasts, but it was another couple of Green Berets that talking. And it was during the time I was transitioning, but listening to them, I think it kind of helped me transition because it felt like I was in the team room with them. It's just that the talk, the banter, the joking, it's hard to describe without sounding, unfortunately, racist or sexist. But it's just the camaraderie and, example, just going out to the range all day long, coming back and just sitting around having a beer after you've refit for the next day, and it's just sitting around talking about life in general, what you want to do, and where the team's going, and basically you can translate that from this to our individual businesses, where's it going, and stuff like that. But
we talked just as we were talking to JP, expounding on that thought a little bit. The team room stuff. There's a point where you're in that very, very small group, that very small demographic of guys that are very like-minded.
Sure.
A-types, A-types plus. That a lot of times when you say team room talk, it's not only, that level of dedication that you have to that community, to that job, that you sit around. You go out to the range, you go train, you come in late at night, you're back in the team room, or just a regular COB day walking around the group area, that somebody wants to come in and sit down and, hey, man, it's the end of the day, usually got a refrigerator in there, and you pop a beer at the end of the day and kind of sit around and talk about, it's not on-duty talk, it's after duty.
Yep.
You sit there, have a beer in your second home.
Right.
A lot of times your first home.
It's amazing how many times that we've come, like I said, usually it's after a long day of work, busting our butts, whether it be something as monotonous as an inventory, command change inventory, or coming back from the range, and everybody wants to go home.
Yeah.
Everybody's like itching to go home, but hey, everybody pops a beer and has at least two, it seems like. And it's like, I thought you were leaving. I was like, now we're, you want to stay there. Yes,
it ends up feeling a little bit like home.
Right.
So the team room talk to me, I don't know if there's anybody else out there that calls it a team room talk or something similar to it, but that's what we really wanted to do here with this, was bring in our friends. Before we started talking on here, we were talking a little bit about the support thing. We really appreciate your support of A-TACS, the influence that you bring within the industry, JP, Rick Hogg, so on and so forth, the guys that are on our tactical pros. It's a big deal to have you guys in there, talking about us and talking about our name, and it's nice to have that background with you guys to come in here and have a team room talk. So we'll kind of, first thing I think I'd like to talk to you a little bit about with it, please, and as long or short as you want to, a little bit about your background, as much as you'll divulge.
That's something I'm still getting used to now.
Yeah.
I'm retired. Well, I did 22 years total of service, 2 years in the National Guard, Washington State. Then I was a combat engineer for the next 6, I think. And then I went 2001, to have to be 2001, and I ended up going to selection right after 9/11. I signed up for it before 9/11 kicked off, so it was kind of I don't know if it was a written sign or not for me that I needed to do that, but it was good timing. I went to, I was 18 Charlie, engineer, and I was assigned to 5th Group, spent most of my career in 2nd Battalion. I did a 3-year stint at SWIC as a 18 Charlie engineer instructor, taught construction, and then went back to 5th Group and back to 2nd Battalion and retired out as a team sergeant.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So spent a little bit of time down at the engineer base camp, and we were actually talking a little bit at the Camp McCall special map just a little bit ago, talking about that and flashbacks to being around Camp McCall, which really nice shirt. You were joking. You had a shirt like this when the boys camp.
I have the exact same one. Yeah.
Great shirt. So after you did your time in service, what did you really want to do afterward? Because I know when I was about 24 months out from the military, I started thinking about what I was doing or what I wanted to do, what I was good at, as you know. And it was kind of funny. You brought up you didn't know I ran the Black Skull Tactical thing for a while. Did that before I started working with Phil Duke at A-TACS. But what were you when you started getting ready to end your time in service? What was your thought process? What did you want to do?
I wanted to retire.
I know the feeling.
Well, I mean, I wanted to stay in. Part of me wanted to stay in, but I knew it was time to retire. And I mean, to be honest, I really didn't have a set plan and goal. I was always planning to go back to school, but just being a married man, for me it was just being able to provide for my family. So I mean, I didn't really have a solid plan. I ended up contracting, like a lot of us do on the way out, and done that for a couple of years, and I'm kind of still doing it, but I'm doing it as an independent contractor now. So I'm still supporting, and I really enjoy what I do. I'm supporting special operations, primarily SF, either UW training or surveillance, counter surveillance training. So I mean, I'm enjoying what I'm doing, but I think where it's going now is we're down for a couple of months for this pandemic.
Yeah. Been pretty crazy.
I'm going back to school finally, and I found a place out of Tampa that wanted to do everything online because everything's shut down. But
were you originally from Florida before you served?
No, absolutely. And I'm originally from Washington State. My first job I spent my first year after retirement in Northern Virginia, and then the position was moving to Florida, so I moved down to Florida. And at some point, we decided to part ways, and I'm still in Florida, but I love it down there. Surprisingly, never expected to end up down there, but really happy.
Strangely enough, this very small community. It's funny, you're running into friends of mine, and as you've gotten Zulu Ops up, and you're doing what you're doing with Zulu Ops. It's funny, you run into some other friends of mine from the Ranger Regiment. Yeah. You run into Scott down there that builds some ghillie suits and stuff with us, and it's funny. The more that you're getting into this, I've been doing the A-TACS now since I retired and really started working with Phil at A-TACS around 2013, and then really got into it probably about 14, 15, almost full time. But I've learned a lot about this industry from end user to, now with what you're doing with Zulu Ops. I mean, I've carried a backpack a long way, but I've never really thought about how to make that backpack come to life, design-wise, what it's made out of, all those kind of things, which is exactly what you're getting into now a little bit with what you're doing with building your bags and stuff. Starting to talk about those fabrics and things that are, like you said, you're 18 Charlie, you want to overbuild it. You want, we'll laugh a little bit about mil spec when they say mil spec. Is it really mil spec, or is it just what the lowest bidder will pay for?
Right.
But when you get serious about mil spec and you say, I want to build this bag and I want this thing to be bomb proof, that's really what you're wanting to do with Zulu Ops. And let's grab a couple of your bags. I want to talk about, we had actually, while we were down at the tactical games, we were looking at one of your bags, and I'm not sure that you realized that one of the bags that you had done was a 600 poly. We talked about that a little bit, even though it looked good and it was still pretty tough and everything. Yeah. And I think you had resourced that through one of our fabric providers, and I think if I remember the conversation right, you got the wrong thing.
Yeah, I ended up getting shipped the wrong thing, but I
Yeah.
made do of it. I mean,
Yeah.
they took care of me, so I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not complaining about that. But
Yeah.
I ended up making it out of that because I wanted to get in there. I wanted to get it done. I had a deadline of the tactical games in November. But yeah,
we're kind of remembering all this now as we're talking about it.
Yeah.
Because right when I touched it, I was like, wow, did you, ask to make this out of 600 poly? And you were like, that's, Cordura. And I was like, I touched it a little bit more like we were looking at some fabrics a little earlier. Immediately when you touch these things after you're looking at them all the time.
I'm definitely there now.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah, I know. And, we were talking about that actual Cordura name brand bags. And these, the way that you've set up these bags, I know I've looked at them a little bit. This one's kind of compartmentalized, and guys that really get serious about shooting are big on lot numbers of ammo. You don't really want to contaminate one lot with another, so guys come out and they'll put, how much does one of these bags hold? 500?
Well, honestly, I mean, I call this the 300 ammo bag, the smaller one, primarily because, again, taking my recent experience with the tactical games and seeing these shooters carry ammo, but just also knowing a little bit about the shooting competition is that you're not going to shoot more than 300 rounds in a competition.
Yeah.
So that's why 300 rounds. But the actual size, I've put between 500 and 600 rounds in it.
So, and two of these, what we call, you said it's a what bag?
300 ammo bag.
300 ammo bag. Two of these will fit inside one of these little tote bags.
Right. I call that the carry-all.
Yeah, the carry-all. So, I mean, these are, we talked a little bit about, how much you're doing with A-TACS right now. I know you've been doing some stuff with Ghost. You've been dabbling a little bit in the FG now, and I know you had done some IX
There's
as well.
IX in there, yeah.
Which is really cool. I mean, I love, again, after I ran a tactical training company for a little while and spent a lot of time on the range, I was there all the time. I had ammo cans full of ammo, but these are really nice to be able to, these look great. I mean, the Ghost IX and then the Total.
Yeah, carry-all.
Carry-all. I'll get it right. Carry-all. With the we actually had talked about this while we were down in Florida. Yeah, Florida. We were down in Florida, and we talked about you actually put handles on everything. And shoot, this almost gets into almost like where you could work out with it. I think that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Once you get it all loaded up with ammo, it's pretty heavy.
Yeah, trust me, I've been hit up about trying to come up with a version of workout kettlebell, kind of like brute force sandbags. But since I know the owners of brute force sandbags and the trainers, and they're American made, I have too much respect to jump into that realm.
I know exactly what you mean.
But I'm not going to lie, I stole a few ideas as far as like the durability aspect to it. So like the handles on the carry-all is seatbelt material. I mean, who does that?
Yeah, I mean, these are definitely, when you told me and we started looking at these and you were talking about over-engineering them, the insides are lined. I think your wife does a lot of the sewing with you.
Yeah, she's the brain. She's been really the brains behind it. I mean, don't get me wrong. I do sit behind a sewing machine and I do make them because I need to know how to make them. Yeah. But she's my subject matter expert, I guess you would call it.
Definitely really, really nice bags there. You can just, when you feel them, you feel how thick they are. The sewing's real nice. The designs are good. I didn't notice that those were actually seatbelt straps on there, but really, I'm sure you could probably rappel off of that. What kind of zippers are these you're using?
These are YKK zippers.
YKKs, yeah. So I want to, tell me about the logo, the ZULU OPS logo. How did you come up with that?
That one, it went through a couple different iterations. My own iteration, and then honestly, I reached out to Nate with Brilliant Man Tactical. He helped me out a lot with that. But primarily, the logo is loosely based around the Sons of Liberty flag they flew back in the day. It used to be more of a vertical flag, but then they changed it to horizontal after they started getting known. The British started knowing what it was, and so. But the Sons of Liberty flag it was just basically like a star. It was a Stars and Stripes flag, but with just the stripes, red and white, red and white. And so that's where the red stripes come from, is derivative of that. The main logo is on a white background, primarily to mimic the in honor of that flag. But with the patches in the black, it's kind of like more of my backside. I don't know how to like. Guerrilla force type flag, it's like, if you know about the Sons of Liberty and the history on that and the Boston Tea Party and stuff like that, you trying to, and especially with somehow the people think about today's,
Climate.
Yeah, don't want to get too political.
Yeah.
That's just my way of saying, hey, we got to stand our grounds.
Yeah, of course.
Listen to the Constitution and what that means. And do what's right for the people, not for the government.
Yeah.
So.
Love it. And like I said, a lot of guys don't. They see the logo, and that's why I wanted to ask. Don't necessarily know what goes in behind that, and what your thought process is. Service, post-service, and how you integrate all those years of service into your logo, the construction, what you're trying to say.
I'm glad you say that, because actually my first team in 5th group, our motto or team name was Sons of Liberty.
Oh, really?
So that was probably one of my best team time, was those first 6 years. It was freaking phenomenal. Even our spouses got along. It was best time ever.
FRG.
Yeah. So I kind of fell back on that logo at that time, and I did some research, and I saw that, and I'm like, and what the meaning behind that flag was, I was like, I got to do it.
Yeah.
So.
And like I said, a lot of that influence goes into No Stefionis group, Rick Hogg with Warhog,
Absolutely.
all those little things. Like I said, this group that A-TACS has been fortunate enough through the tactical games to get to be friends with you and ZULU Ops and have you doing our products, and that seriousness that you put into this, not only into your logo but into your products, your training, still contracting and interacting with military and stuff like that, real important. I think I said it to JP, we never can quite get that out of our blood.
No, that's the hard part. It's like when I do talk about retiring, and I'm like, you can't.
Yeah.
I like a lot of us get out, we like to teach firearms instructions. A lot of us, not everybody, but a lot of us are pretty good at it, and I always enjoy rewarding. The bags, I wanted something that I know from our experiences on teams, how we pretty much destroy equipment. If it's not made well, we destroy it, and we let the manufacturer know. Yeah. So I'm trying to take that experience and apply it to these bags. And
real mil spec.
Yeah, like a good buddy of mine, CJ, he's like one of my first customers. He's a retired 3rd group guy, I believe, and he calls it 18 Charlie proof. And I think that's extremely fitting.
So, this was something that not only came out of your experience in the military, but as you started coming on as a battle boss with the tactical games. Yes. This was a need that a requirement out there that you saw, that people were like, you know what, I see a capability gap here. I think I can get in there and start making something that would serve their purpose.
Absolutely. It was. I think it started off with watching people tap games, and it's kind of morphed into this could easily work for the 2-gun and 3-gun crowd. And I've seen and with the tap games, with it growing over the last year, you get different variety of competitors. Either they're, I think Tim even puts it, a third is MIL, former MIL, third is LEO, former LEO, and the rest are civilian. But watching these people compete, they're bringing Ziploc bags, they're bringing the original cardboard boxes, they're bringing ammo cans full of ammo, and it just a light bulb went off, as you would say, and then I was like, this is a compact, extremely durable. You think about these tactical athletes and the abuse they put in their equipment. I'm bringing that aspect, saying, hey, these are going to last you. I don't want to say forever. I don't want to make a claim, but
as long as you want to take care of them and use them.
Well, I mean, but we're also very hard on our equipment. Yeah. The people like us in our background, or whether it be competitive shooters, are pretty hard on their equipment. They put through the paces. So I wanted something, and I saw it, and that was my primary target. But again, it easily transitions into the 2- and 3-gun. Yeah. Which I have recently linked up with a 7th group guy who puts on matches in the Panhandle of Florida, RPGI. Brendan Sauter. Good dude, and I'm gonna be working with him about putting my bags on the prize table, trying to really get into that 2- and 3-gun matches. So.
Very cool. And that was one of the things that, as we were thinking through everything we're doing with Tim and those guys at the tactical games, that was one of the things we wanted to talk about, is the evolution of some of these products, and us having a relationship with you and some of the other battle bosses that all have companies, that are out there bringing that influence out there and showing people. What we wanted to talk about was what's the how to set your rifle up? What's the best bag to tote your ammo in,
Right.
or something to keep it segregated like this. There's a lot of different parts of that that we know that we've done these things for the military that you're bringing into that tactical games. Products, the high-speed gear stuff that we've
Right.
got coming with the tacos, to be able to review and talk about these things a little bit so guys understand, hell, I could bring my ammo to the games in a Ziploc bag, but
Right.
I can get this and,
Right.
man, when I'm out training on my own and I see, coming from being a battle boss, I fight with this all the time. I'm usually at the tactical games for a very specific reason, or convention that we go to or whatever. I'm there to talk about A-TACS and bring that message. But I see that you're getting ready to do something. I saw this the other night. That draw, I'm always drawn to that competition.
Yeah.
I want to get out there and do it myself. But I have to keep myself
Right.
back and say, what is my mission? My mission
Right.
is to be here to talk and support the tactical games as A-TACS. And I've been trying to stay out of that, but it's starting to suck you in. So let's tell me a little bit about what you're getting ready to do with that.
Shoot, it sucked me in from the get-go. Quick, background, Mike Green from Green Ops.
Yep.
Sent me an email last year for the Mississippi Games to support, if I could support Tim, but I couldn't make it. I went out in Atlanta. Tim automatically made me a battle boss, which I'm freaking thrilled to do. I mean, it was great. That's when I first met JP, unfortunately.
JP's my friend.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. But so to be able to battle boss and then basically take my range experience of running ranges and apply it to the tactical games. But to me, the initial response was this is a stress shoot on steroids.
Yeah.
And it's something that on an SF team we do almost every time we go out to the range. We usually end the day or whatever with a stress shoot. So I was happy to be a part of that, but just also taking that, just also being a former 18 Charlie, I always try to look at things as a holistic way and then figure out a way to make it better. And so when I saw that, a missing element in the, with most competitors, it was easy, it was a no-brainer to blend the two.
Yeah.
And I've, like this last game in Mississippi, I was not battle bossing, but I was walking around more as a vendor and huge support. And yeah, it's finally transitioning to I'm going to compete.
I think what do they say? Those who can't do teach. But it gets to the point where you're like, I still want to go out and do that. And I'm basically with the masters, the older guys that are there just to still go out and I'm kind of like a diesel engine at this point. I kind of got to get up to operating temperature before I do anything too quick.
I also wish that Tim would give me a waiver to the Masters, but I'm 43, so I'm a couple years shy of Masters. So, yeah, I'll be competing intermediate in South Carolina. We'll find out how many people watch this or listen to this podcast because I haven't announced it at all. And I don't.
It's out there now.
I don't plan to on my Instagram page. I'm just going to go out and train.
Yeah, and I mean, but again, that's something that's inside of you. It's inside of me and the guys that want to go out there and just like going back to your logo. I mean, there's that thing inside of you that drives you to serve. It drives you to continue to stay in good shape and innovate. Do things new, test yourself.
Right.
I can't say that I probably won't do it at some point or another. I'd love to, but I'll tell you, making that choice to go out and say, I'm going to start. I saw some of your videos. You're out on the range right now, starting to kind of lube up the joints and
I
get out there.
I got a good group of friends right now up there in Panhandle where we're gonna, they've been training for a little while, and they're, more as I said, more welcome to come out and train with them, and I'm going to be doing that a little more frequently because it's. We have access to a range out there that is just ideal for it. Plus, each one of us brings different stuff. I got brute force sandbags and my own water jugs, and we're just applying some training to it. But I was immediately drawn to it just because I think we're innately competitive.
Yeah.
In everything that we do.
Yeah, there was no doubt though. I mean, even I knew Tim Burke going back a little ways towards. Trigger Time TV.
Right.
Little bit ways back, I've met him a few years ago. You could just tell being around Tim, he's just a great guy. And I know that is a extremely perishable skill that needs to be worked on a lot. And the tactical games is the kind of thing that motivates you, one, to be physically fit.
Right.
You know, you got to go out there and push yourself, challenge yourself. You got to be able to climb a rope, jump a wall, crawl with your gear on. Vetting gear, just vetting your gear. If you're going to go out and buy a product, there is nothing that we know better than as soon as you adapt or modify your gear, you figure out something doesn't work there. I got to move that. I got to change this, tighten that down. Tweaking that gear to make sure that you can run, jump, crawl, all that kind of stuff with that gear that you're purchasing, that it's durable. You know, that gear has to be able to hold up to what you're going to do with it. And then being able to go, not only you're getting ready for the games, so you're out shooting, you're training, your proficiency is high. And I know you know, because you've been there as a battle boss a few times and now becoming a competitor, it is like a tactical tribe. We're going to the games. We see lots of new people being assimilated in, but you start seeing a lot of the same people coming back, and that gives them the motivation to keep their training up.
Right. No, I completely agree. I mean, one of the things that is really I mean, obviously, last June was in Atlanta was my first tactical games, and Tim's a great guy, automatically hooked. But it's since I've been battle bossing, you know, and for me, I get a lot of competitors asking me advice and stuff, and I'm a lead by example kind of guy, so I have a difficult time giving advice and I always caveat I haven't competed yet, but that's another reason why I want to compete is. I don't feel bad giving advice, you know, as far as I don't have any background in it. Granted, we come from a background that does warrant, you know, we could give advice, but at the same time, I'm just like, I haven't competed yet, and I need to. You know, it's once, twice.
That's something inside of you, though. That's you, and I agree with what you're saying. I mean, when you spend all that time in special operations, you're constantly being evaluated. You're, you know, you're not at the bottom. You're mid to upper level all the time in your performance. So going through selections or going to service schools, no matter what those capabilities may be, that I think gives us a unique perspective on gear, physical fitness, shooting. Yes, and I agree with that. And it's kind of a thing that's hard to inside of us, and you know, and that's why you're drawn to compete, so you can say, I've done this.
Right. Now, I mean, as a battle boss, I've proved, you know, the last 2 games I battle bossed at, which was North Carolina and Florida, I proved my lane. So I mean, I got a taste of it, but to me, I want the full deal, and you know, compete. And I think it's going to really bring everything to a complete circle between the battle bossing aspect and how the competitions ran, to the gear that, you know, I want to start making and providing for people, and how that relates to, okay, this is a tactical athlete. You know, yes, this gear is going to freaking last the tactical athlete. So that's where my brain's at as far as the full circle of this whole thing that I call ZULU Ops is, you know, what I provide.
So ZULU is multiple faceted. It's, you know, you do some contracting through that.
I mean, that's the primary, I guess, means of income for me, as I do independent contracting for the government. But it is primarily a tactical gear and training. You know, I use the three train, equip, and survive. So those are 3 things that you got to talk about, is like training, different kinds of training you can do, you know, just for everyday survival, whether it be concealed carry to tactical, whatever. And of course, you know, you got to be knowledgeable in equipment, what's going to work, what's not going to work, and be open to new equipment and ideas. And then it's just, you know, being able to survive in today's, you know, society, and in this case, the pandemic is going on right now. So I mean, how do you survive in that type of situation? So. But yeah, that's where ZULU Ops is at. I mean, it just primarily started off with the gear, because I started off making Kydex holsters when I retired. But now it's evolved down to, you know, now that I'm an independent contractor, I'm just using the same name and falling underneath that. So, but I'm still training with special operations, so it's still think it falls in my wheelhouse as far as what, you know, the brand of ZULU Ops.
So although I'll try to drag it out of you if I can, what else is on the horizon for ZULU Ops? You got anything that you'll divulge that's new product that's coming out that you're going to be dabbling in? I like how these things go in.
I got a couple things on the horizon. I've been asked, and I've already been looking into it, about the PRS pillows, precision rifle pillows.
Oh yeah.
Falls right into my wheelhouse of bags. So I think that's evolution. I've been asked to, as simple as making a bigger version of the carry-all for an EMT. So it's his first go bag when he goes out on site. To I might be coming out with my own IFAC kit for the vehicle.
Very cool. I'll be looking to see what those look like. That
and
sounds
it'll
pretty
be
neat.
primarily an A-TACS, I guarantee it.
That's great. We covered this a little bit when you first got here. We definitely we appreciate the support that you've shown us here at A-TACS. We've been able to work with you a little bit on fabrics and things like that, and bringing some of those things to you. Well, I mean, we've been doing a lot of trying to advertise for you. We appreciate you coming up here and sitting down and talking with us on this, on the podcast. And like I said, I mean, it's almost very much like the tactical games. It's become a lot of, with that, it's kind of family-oriented. We did meet a lot of guys down there because A-TACS and myself working for A-TACS and coming from the same community, being able to meet yourself, ZULU Ops, Mike at Green Ops, Rick Hogg at Warhog Tactical, JP Cervantes, everybody. We got a lot of guys that are in the pipe to come down and sit and talk with us on the Team Room Talk, and no better setting than a Team Room Talk to sit here and talk about your background, things that you're doing now, things that you're looking at doing in the future. There's just it's great to have this family of guys around us of A-TACS. It's kind of taken us in a different direction. We really, A-TACS, when I first started working with Phil Duke at A-TACS, I came in and there was a direction that we wanted to go. And it really falls in line with exactly what you're talking about. We want quality products made out of quality fabrics from guys who know, that have been through a quarter of their life, if not more, that have been out there and tested stuff and know the difference. Just like when you said, there's different people that come out and compete and want to get into this stuff for different reasons. But when you have this massive amount of background behind you, man, I've done this before, and this is what's going to happen with that. And and then you see it happen. You're like, I told you, that's why I wanted to overbuild this. I wanted the seams to not blow out. I wanted the right zippers on it. There has to be a certain amount of cool with it, and in a joking way. There's a lot of people, rule number one, you look cool.
Always.
That's funny, but it aesthetically, it's got to look great, but it's functionally, it's got to be good. And people like yourself and some of the guys that are building these products know how to build them right and use the right products to build them, and then offer something that you can say, you know what, that's going out the door. I sewed it. I know it's not going to fall apart. And if but in the rare case that it did, I back up my work.
Right. I know, absolutely. I mean, it's one of those things where I'm super excited about these bags because they are overbuilt. The price point is, I've been told I need to increase my prices, but I'm trying to be competitive and get the brand out there. But it really is overbuilt, and it's overbuilt for a reason. I mean, there are other ammo bags on the market, and I'm not knocking them at all, but this is my take on from the special operations side of the house and how abusive we are on equipment. Transitioning to the tactical athlete, whether it be tactical games, 2-gun or 3-gun, they tend to be tough on their gear as well. So I want something that I can absolutely say that I would use this no problem.
What kind of volumes do you turn out with these, just between yourself and I don't know if you have any other employees that you have? I think I remember you mentioned you may have some guys that come in and help you every once in a while.
No,
but it's just you and your wife.
Yes, it's just us, and right now it's small batch. Because like any good entrepreneurial business, I don't want to invest too much money up front. So it's basically I'm just reinvesting whatever I make back into it for the time being until I can build a brand up. So I mean, we've talked about it. If we were in full blown production on 2 machines, we can probably easily right now in about 3 days we can put out 5 complete sets, and that's the 200-300 bags and 1 carry-all. In each of the 3 A-TACS fabrics.
And although this was again, you noticed just at the tactical games, we're looking at precision rifle series, we're looking at 3-gun, we're looking at just general, firearms enthusiasts that want to, like I said, to me, it's a big deal. I mean, I know the difference between lots of ammo. If I buy a lot, I want to keep that lot segregated. And then when I get fire through all of that, I'll transition so I don't have, because every once in a while you pick up some reloads, you pick up, actual factory-made ammo, and you want to keep those things split up and be able to label them or put something on them that says this is lot number 1.
Exactly. I mean, I think these bags can bounce between all the different kind of tactical type of sports with firearms, because 3-gun, you can use the main bag as your shotgun bag. I've had Chris Alvarez.
Yep.
He just recently did a course out in the Midwest, I believe, somewhere Arizona, whatever, doing some long range shooting, and he used the carry-all for him and Jason Sobchak's ammo, and he said it held up great. So I mean, it can span different things. I got one of these as a toiletry bag, for crying out loud. So I mean, it's
multifunction bag. You can definitely use it for a couple different things. Did get we caught a little bit of Chris's exploits out there at the shooting course that he did out there. Was it in Utah or Nevada?
Yeah, somewhere out there in the desert. Yeah.
It looked like a good time. We definitely posted some of Chris's stuff up. Chris is when it comes to competitors, he's
he's there.
He's hitting most of the games, unless I think he's doing some school as well right now. So he has to pick and choose which games he goes to. But those guys, when they get out there, it's funny to watch. The master guys, they're out there just because I want to come do this and I want to make a good showing, but I'm not going to kill myself either. But then you get those elite athletes out there, man. It starts getting.
Well,
it gets a little dicey because it gets pushy, and they're trying to get around each other, and they're really pushing.
I don't know. For me, it was my brain said elite just because I'm super competitive.
Yeah.
My body said intermediate, so I'm doing intermediate. My body's like, no, you're not gonna be able to do that right now. So we'll see what happens.
Well,
but I enjoy watching like Chris and everybody else, and Jared Halbert, who's not even in the military background, compete and be super competitive.
I tell you, I don't. For me in particular, and again, because I knew Tim, and I knew every time I go to one of the games, they're have a great showing. They put on a great event. They've got some good sponsors out there. I would try to name them off all right now, but I'd miss somebody. There are a lot of good sponsors out there. They come out, they do the games, they put them on, but there is not, to me, a better event out there for somebody that wants to have these particular skill sets, physical fitness, shooting, adversity, with all the things that go into it that Tim tried to infuse into this thing that was almost like a selection or a qualification event at the special operations level. They're getting tested pretty good.
Oh no, they are. I mean, it's definitely at that level where you can't be just good at CrossFit, and I don't even like using CrossFit. It's functional fitness is what the tactical games is about. So it's being able to, that's been a lot of the rave the last decade or so, but it's being able to be in shape and shoot as good. You can't have one or the other. You can't be a really good shooter and then not be in shape. We've seen it time and time again at the games, where you get CrossFitters coming out that are just novice shooters, and although they crush the physical event, their shooting is, not up to par, where you got on the opposite side of the spectrum, you got they're on point shooting, but they're way behind on the physical. Yeah. So when you talk about time versus your misses, you got to have a happy balance, and even Tim bringing that to the, experience from the special operations side of the house, because I know my time in was real big on being an all-around athlete, treating us like professional athletes, and that's what Tim's really brought to the games.
It's definitely as a firearms instructor and the tactics instructor stuff that you do. I saw it a lot as I was doing that. There is a balance that you have to strike. You may be able to shoot and draw real fast, but how much are you willing to sacrifice on accuracy to be fast?
Right.
Or vice versa.
Absolutely.
So I mean that applies in so many of these things. Goes back a little bit, Royce Gracie is a friend of ours. He's done some A-TACS stuff in his hunting and 3-gun and stuff like that. And you look at even the fighting sports, you look at that balance that you have to have between your ground game and striking. And that is really what translates into this in particular shooting sport or event, the tactical games, is you have to know the balance and all those little things that you can pick up from people like the battle bosses or the elite guys to say, hey, I see you're carrying your stuff around in a freaking Ziploc bag. Hey, check out my bags over here. This may be something that you'll like. And if they're smart, a lot of times they'll listen.
Oh, I mean, I'm blown away by the support from the tactical games community with the bags. I mean, I can't say enough about some of these athletes that, just either seen another athlete with the bag, say, hey, wow, that's great, versus just supporting because of, I'm bringing that experience to my products. So, yeah, absolutely.
There's been a lot of advantages to working with the tactical games. There was, I brought this up in the last podcast when we were talking to JP. The brute force bag guys, that was somebody that became a major integral part of the tactical games.
Absolutely.
That they were doing, greens and solids and things like that. And like I said, unless you're trying to conceal in the woods, unless we're talking about ghillie suits and military application, sometimes a lot in PRS and 3-gun and even in the tactical games, concealment isn't a really big thing. It's not something that you have to take real seriously. But a lot of times that within these products, we want to have those products out there, so somebody that does want something other than just a green bag or a this or that, ended up meeting two of the training guys, Drew and Mark from Brute Force Bags training. Met them down in Mississippi, and just happened to inadvertently, I was walking one way and here come two guys with brute force bags across their shirts, and I was like, 90 degree, man. Went right over and started talking to them. We had spent some time over at the A-TACS trailer. We were talking about, showed them some patterns and things like that. As I was talking to Mark and Drew, we ended up getting up with the owner of Brute Force Bags, and now we're getting ready to, not only are we supporting the tactical games with a whole gamut of A-TACS bags for the games, but had a nice long chat with Justin Eberly on the phone, and we are getting ready to release backpacks, kettlebells, the main bags, the sandbags. So that was something we really, really wanted to do with them, and through the tactical games, that happened.
Yeah, that's not good for me, though, Clint, because Brute Force is going to get more of my money.
Well,
I have a couple. I have a couple of their bags, and I
these
really
things
enjoy them,
will look fantastic sitting next to those Brute Force bags. And again,
I think it could be comparatively, obviously different products, but
I mean,
but
again,
but durability and strength wise, I think it can compete.
Like I said, and that's what I'm saying. They are very similar. 1,500 D-Core Dura. Construction-wise, they're really good, manufactured, durable, and useful for the games. And again, within that small little clique of people that we're doing with the tactical games, Brute Force Bags, Zulu Ops.
Yeah. So I mean, I love Brute Force sandbags, but I know you're getting in working with Ultima boots. Yeah. And Gators. That's what I'm.
Yeah, I was actually, we, surprising right after SHOT Show, I didn't make it by the Gators booth. A lot of us, at least from the special operations community, that's always a highly desirable piece of kit. The Gators glasses,
it's awesome.
Again, they're built well, they last well. It's a cool product. They fit great, and for a lot of different applications.
Like you, I probably got 5 or 6 flown throughout the house.
Oh my gosh, yeah. One of our partners, Nate from Jester Tactical, he ended up linking up with the guys and talking to them a little bit about A-TACS, saying that he was working with us, and ended up getting me talking with the products developer over at Gators. I'm telling you, that was a bucket list thing for me. To be able to have Gators Eyewear coming out in an A-TACS pattern, that now they are on as a sponsor of the tactical games, and just like you and Brute Force Bags, to have Gators Eyewear come on, we've actually put a couple of posts up on some glasses that are being done right now. Those things should be coming fairly soon. I know everybody gets they really start anticipating this stuff. So when we like to put it up, but sometimes there's still a little lead time on getting it out to everybody and having it to where you can purchase the things. But they are coming soon, a lot like the Altalma footwear.
Right.
I know what we did was we ended up getting a bunch of sample shoes that we got from Altalma that JP got a set, you've got a set, some of the other guys got a set right now. They're out there, they're coming, but a little, I've had to exercise my patience a little bit in this industry. Everything takes a little bit of time to, get the fabric, get it in-house, get it cut and sewn. Sometimes when you want something that's going to last you a lifetime, you got to wait a little while to get it because it's going to be high quality. Gators, I know you're another Gators guy. You like Gators Eyewear.
I can't wait for him to come out. I really
so I talked to the product development guy the other day, and those things are down getting dipped right now. So we should be seeing those things in the next few months, and I'm sure you will end up getting a set of those glasses.
I'll make sure I do.
I'm stoked about that. There's a few companies like this as a business development guy for A-TACS. Another one was Mick Strider Knives. That was kind of a bucket list for me. I've known Mick for many, many years, and he's very close friends with some of my friends. But I've got a bunch of Strider products, knives, folders, fixed blades, hatchets, a lot of stuff. We love the product, and to be able to call him up and say, Mick, I want to have this happen, can we get an S&G knife in an A-TACS pattern? And for him to agree. On that note, we've actually got more Strider knives coming because every one that he made sold out.
Right.
We had somebody come in the other day and we posted them and said, it's just too expensive. Sometimes if you really want a real high quality product like that, save your pennies a little bit and get one because you'll have it a lifetime.
Absolutely.
I carry I'm a little torn because I've got a personal knife that Mick made for me, a folder, and I've got my A-TACS, and it usually ends up I'm carrying the A-TACS knife because it was exactly what I wanted.
Absolutely.
And to make that happen, Gators is a lot like that.
Well, I mean, for me, I like I told you before, I was following A-TACS before I met you or was even involved in tactical games.
Yeah.
I started following on social media, but it was after you came on board with A-TACS. Because again, when I retired, you sit on social media, you tend to get in a circle of retired or ex-SF guys and, support each other. But to now be a partner on two fronts, whether it be a brand partner and the pro staff, but to watch, the companies that you're getting involved with, it just aligns with my thought process on durability and equipment, whether it be the Gators, the Ultima, the Brute Force sandbags.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm excited for it. I've told you, you could probably go in any room in my house. I got A-TACS somewhere.
Love it. That's
somewhere.
Great. And that going along with that thought, we actually talked about this a little bit before we started doing the podcast. Going back a little bit on the A-TACS team room thought, a lot of the stuff that's in here, there's a story behind almost everything that's hanging in here on the wall. We could get into stories on everything like that. At least with me coming on with A-TACS and working with Philip Duke, that designs the camouflages. He, started the company years before I came on, before I retired out here at Fort Benning and came on and started working with him. I was attracted to the patterns. You can tell, I'm biased. There's no doubt I work here, but when you look at the patterns are very, very effective.
Well, for guys like me that, 20 plus years in the military, I've been through 3 uniform changes.
We talked about this a little bit,
and for me to see A-TACS, I was immediately drawn to the IX. I'm not going to, the IX would just, it reminded me of the old BDUs, but better.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
I was surprised somebody was talking to me the other day about the patterns, and this resonated with me, and I understood what he was saying. And it was a brand partner that had been working with us for a while, and what he was telling me was when he's got the patterns laying on the cut table, and he's cutting out his patterns and stuff for the products he's making, he literally, as he was staring where he was trying to cut, his eyes were playing games on him. He couldn't focus on the pattern, which we hear over and over again for guys. A lot of the guys in like the Marine, a lot of the Marine sniper guys have used A-TACS in the past. We've got some special operations guys right now wearing some of our uniforms downrange, so they're wearing them and stuff. But it really is an advanced pattern. You look at them, the macro and micro patterns, the way Phil designs the camo, they are very effective patterns. There's not a, like you said, when you go back and look at older patterns, there's a technique where there's a delineation between colors. You have black, brown, green, and there's a line.
It's taken that, from the BDU days to then, Desert Storm, everybody's in DCUs, desert camouflage, and then I'm not going to talk about the ACUs.
Yeah, let's try to forget that happened.
You need a uniform for your environment, and there's not going to be a one size fits all, in my opinion on that.
Yeah.
So I mean, seeing A-TACS, I'm like, you got your tropical, you got your green, and of course you get I love the Ghost. It's it's kind of, that's probably more I would say for law enforcement, but But to have the way this pattern breaks up, I would have loved to have a DCU version for the desert, and the FG for Afghanistan, and stuff like that. So
that's a great point, and I'd like to caveat on that a little bit and talk just a little bit about that, because a lot of guys, they get emotionally connected to a pattern. I'm telling you, it's almost a little bizarre to me, but I understand it, because I am. There are certain things that I take very, very seriously. When we started looking at evolving A-TACS, we've done this for a certain amount of years. What are we going to do next? And throughout the tactical industry, everybody goes to SHOT Show and they're looking at what is the new thing.
Right.
What's the new widget? What is the new scope, the new power, the new stock? Whatever it is, everybody is in there and they are trying to evolve. It was difficult to change off of AU and FG, LE, the original patterns that were that had a certain look to them. And they were non-directional. They had certain colorways in them. But as we looked at those patterns and we said, what is next? What do we want to do next? And that some of that changed when I started working with Phil. And we started looking at those patterns saying, these have done very, very well, but how do we step off to the next thing? What is the next number of years going to look like for A-TACS? And one of the things that we looked at was, I had brought up with Phil, and I said, for a guy like me that, mostly with the U.S. military, that's one day you find yourself and you're in North Africa, or the next thing you're down in, Panama or Colombia, or you're somewhere there. You have to have muscle memory gear that once you set it up, you get real personal with that gear. You know where everything's at. You set it up a certain way. So that pattern, I said, I looked at Phil and I said, where is the middle piece between these two great patterns that we have? One is an arid pattern. One is a tropical pattern that I thought we needed to tweak a little bit. So we looked at that intermediate pattern, and that's where IX came from. IX is a 50-50 blend of the two original patterns. We took the greens out of FG and we wanted to make it more green. We wanted to make it more of a tropical pattern. I think AAU didn't change all that much. I mean, other than directional.
Right.
And when most people don't know this, but there was an original IX pattern that nobody's ever even seen. That Phil brought that in. We sat and evaluated. We looked at it. We took it out in the woods. We, combed over. What do we want to do with this? And he wasn't quite happy with it for some reason. I thought it looked really, really good, and it was exactly a 50-50 combination of not only the colorways, but the patterns themselves. And so he looked at that and he decided, I think I want to do a little bit more with it. He went back and tweaked it, and he came back with IX. And unfortunately for me, having the background that I do, it had just enough flavor of tiger stripe that I was like, whoa, that looks like a 21st century tiger stripe.
Right.
And there's like 12 colors in IX, so it matches with so many different things. There's four levels of green in it and 4 of brown, and then there's fall on colors. So that IX started, and we really liked it. I was really attracted to it because of, like I said, the flavor, the kind of look at it was kind of tiger stripey, but it was more than that. It's much deeper. There are some macro and micro patterns in there.
Like I told you, that was my first introduction to A-TACS was the IX. I was like, oh yes.
Yeah,
you know,
it just had the right look to it for me, at least, and that set off kind of a motion of how we looked at redoing or reworking. What did we call it? We called it. Oh gosh, I forget the word. It was kind of like an advanced AU, but what we wanted to do because IX had a slight bit of horizontal shape to it, what we wanted was AU to maintain the original colors of the AU, but we wanted it to become a little bit more horizontal, a little more directional, like the IX. And the same thing happened with FG, but with FGX, it became a little more green. We wanted it to be more tropical, and we lost a little bit of the brown in it, so it became much more green. And that's where we wanted them. They are bookends. The middle piece, IX, wasn't even intended for gear or for uniforms. It was intended for gear.
Okay.
You know, because what we wanted to do was
Mix and
that
match,
plate carrier, battle belt, you know, any hydrographics, dipping, decorating things on helmets or guns, things like that, was an intermediate pattern and could be worn on AUX or FGX.
Right.
That's why we did that. And let me tell you, getting back to where I started, you know, getting into this is, you know, a lot of guys had a problem, you know, like, hey, you know, I don't want you to get rid of FG, you know, but it was like, there's a system here. There's a reason why we set it up. We looked real hard at this, at how we keep all the original AU and FG buyers and have them move into a new pattern that they can use their old gear and start assimilating new things in and changing it out, and then be able to buy one set of gear that you could wear on 3 different uniforms. So man, I'll tell you, I could get into that conversation for quite a while. That may be a whole nother podcast, but you know, there was a lot of thought that went into that, and we went over that for months of how we were going to roll out the X line of patterns. And so far you've done all of them and they look great. Ghost ended up coming out in the gray because you know, gray is the new black in the industry. There was so much wolf gray out there. We just said, man, how would it be to have this really cool looking aggressive gray version of IX to go on Ghost wolf gray uniforms, or vice versa. So the gray turned out really nice. The bags that you're doing in it, the nylons that came out, you know, plate carriers. Rick Hogg's wearing a plate carrier right now from C2R, friend of his. That plate carrier turned out great. We have Templar's gear that's coming out with a lot of plate carriers and stuff. A lot of nice looking nylon gear out there in all the patterns. So
no, I mean, I definitely follow you. Obviously, I follow you on Instagram and stuff, and you know, great support. But just being able to see all these other companies come on board with this, I think A-TAC's got a future, and I'm going to definitely push and promote it. Not purely because, you know, I know the owners, but I believe in I believe in the pattern. So.
Yeah, I've said it before, and I say it again. I appreciate you, and coming from the background that we have. Like-minded thought process, you know, you and all the tactical pro guys that we're working with, you're out there showing it, you're influencing, and we really, really appreciate that. We support you guys heavily.
Oh, yes, you do.
And there's probably not, I would venture to guess that there's not a brand partner out there right now that we're working with that doesn't have my phone number, that can call me about any time and, hey, I got a problem. Can you help me with this? And we interact heavily. We wanted to do more with less people. We wanted quality products, top drawer, you know, products that people are building nice gear that somebody buys that and they're an ambassador for you. They're going to go off and say, check out ZULU Ops bags. I've got a set of them. This is what I carry in my ammo, and it works for me. So check them out. And the things are durable. They look great. And we appreciate you doing stuff with us and influencing your buyers. So, again, I will probably wrap this podcast up. We've been on here for quite a bit.
Yeah.
All these, when you get you guys in here, man, this is something I can chew the fat on for a while.
Right.
You're laughing at me earlier. I'm a talker.
Imagine if you have like one or two more people on here.
Yeah. So I mean, we're trying to have all of our guys in here, all of our tactical pro guys, and showing what they're doing and brand partners. And let me tell you, we've had so far we've had a lot of guys that want to come in here and sit down and chat with us in the team room talk and talk about these kind of things.
I think it's funny. I'm going to touch real quick on, because you talked about how when I retired, I've ran into a lot of people that we mutually know.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is, I mean, I've been interacting with Akil Bay with Taylor Defense Training Group since I retired.
Yep.
Mike Green, when I lived in Virginia, I linked up with him. So, but all these people that I've already met and interacted with and are now coming around.
Yeah.
I think the team that we've got is freaking solid.
Yeah.
And obviously, I met JP through the tactical game and Rick Hogg. But yeah, I just think it's interesting how, like you said, like-minded people are coming together and same thought process for a great pattern, great gear, and supporting each other. So
yeah, we really appreciate it. Like I said, having the guys around us that are supporting us and helping us get our product out there, and we're friends. We know each other. We talk quite a bit, in different mediums, whether it's through social media or you guys coming down here and hanging out with us. We really appreciate the support, and it's going in the direction that we really wanted to take A-TACS. So thanks, Mike, for everything. Thanks for coming down and spending the day with us, doing some team room talk, kind of bring us back a little bit to our team room time and talk about things that interest us both, tactical games, training, good products, and certainly A-TACS Camo. So
Definitely.
We look forward to having you on again, and I'm sure I'll be down there watching you sweat at the next tactical games when you're competing.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, hopefully South Carolina can, is still a go, but we'll find out.
Yeah.
But if not, I'll push it to Atlanta. I don't have a problem with that.
Yeah,
More time
I know
to
that the tactical games is shifting some things right now because of the current state that we find ourselves in, with everything being kind of shut down. And man, I'll tell you, I know that there's going to be there's a lot of people at home training right now, so you're going to have your work cut out for you.
Yeah.
All right, thanks, Mike, and we'll talk to you next time.
Thanks, Clint.
All right.
If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit the like button, and while you have a chance, stop by and subscribe to our YouTube channel.